You're able to see configure tab? Yes. Perfect. Then click on it. And what we are looking at is, go down, you will see a pipeline script here. Under pipeline. Right? Now I'm going to copy paste that thing in their bigger screens. This is that script we're talking about. This is a Groovy script. You don't have to really understand what it is, but we will look at the main components. Look at the stage one here. Language. There is no Groovy. Let's see here, guys. If you look on the stage, you have a build stage. You have a preparation stage here. Then you have a build stage, and then you have publish to Nexus stage. Right? I'm going to post this thing to Slack. What I want to do is I'm going to post more codes to Slack. You put it into your notepad and try to compare what they are. That's all we will have. This is scripted pipeline code. Or you can copy it, right? From the interface? Yes. Copy it from the interface, put it onto your notepad or some a better interface, notepad plus, and try to compare it. You are only comparing the syntax here. See, a scripted pipeline is basically, it will tell you exactly how to do, step by step, actual Groovy script. Whereas a declarative, you will tell the final state you want it. For example, if you want the artifact to be sent to the Nexus, you will just send it to Nexus. You are using a function inside the code. The function is written by the pipeline plugin provider. We have installed Nexus plugin, right? You remember? So the function is provided, the function code is provided by the plugin creator. Whereas in a Groovy scripted pipeline, you will actually write the code, Groovy code. All that Jenkins will do is, it will give you the Jenkins install, that's it. You are the one who is actually running. Now this code is actually created by the plugin provider in case you are doing a declarative pipeline. Now compare this one with a declarative pipeline and see how it looks like. I'm moving out of the scripted pipelines. Let's move into a declarative pipeline. The parameterized mapping job is a declarative pipeline. Click on that one, configure it. Is that working? Parameterized one? Let's run it quickly. Functioning jobs. Here you're going to say build with parameters. You have somewhere. Okay, parameterized build. Build with parameters you have? Yes. So we click on that one. This is the only parameter we have asked. Select both. And let's see if it works. That's a build. Console output. This is building. Uploading. Final stage it is. Alright. Yeah, it's working. So you have encode ID /app0117. POM and WAR file, all these files getting uploaded here. And let's say the code, that's what we are interested in. So here also you will have configures. The parameterized Maven job, the name is basically a declarative pipeline. Now if you say this one, this is directly coming from Git repo, I think. Branch, origin, main, noun, fail. Okay, it's coming from a Git. So let's look at the Git repo. Here you see the Git repository that we are pulling it from. This is the Git repository. Try to go to that Git repository. You will see the Git repository. You see this one earlier. You have pipeline. Under pipeline, you had pipeline, all the code copied here itself. That's one way of creating your pipeline. Or you can pull the code from an SCM. See this one. This was the difference earlier and now. Pipeline script was pasted in the Jenkins interface, that's one way, or you can put the whole pipeline script into GitHub and pull it from there. And you can do this for both scripted and declarative. So I just used a different parameter. So take this GitHub URL, let's go there. Now under this one, you have Jenkins file. Now this is your declarative pipeline. Now tell me the difference between declarative and scripted. The first one I'll tell you. The declarative, scripted one usually starts with node. The declarative starts with pipeline. That's the first major obvious difference. Apart from that, tell me the rest of the differences. Do you see any other difference? You need to compare the code of the declarative pipeline, which is parameterized pipeline, that's how it's named over there, versus a scripted pipeline. And tell me at least two differences. See anything. On the repository, you will see this pipeline in Jenkins file. That's the name of the file under which you will see this code. This code is being pulled by Jenkins when you are running the job. The whole concept is pipeline pipeline as code. So your whole Jenkins job is being defined as a code. And code is completely version controlled using GitHub. So what happens now is, let's say the developer changed the pipeline code. Do we have to do any changes in Jenkins? In this case, when we are pulling the code directly from GitHub, we don't have. Whereas the one where we copied directly on Jenkins interface, there we have to again copy it from here and then put it over there. So this model means pulling it from GitHub is a better model than actually copying it. Then why do we have both? Why can't we remove it? Remove the first option. Not everybody wants to put their code into GitHub, or probably you are just running a couple of jobs only. You don't want to configure all that GitHub and everything. Small code, couple of jobs you have. You don't want the headache of linking up with GitHub and all that nonsense. You want it to do it quickly kind of thing. You run a Groovy script and you quickly paste it over there and test it. That's the reason you have both that. What's the difference? What's the visible difference you observe between scripted and declarative pipelines? You learn two different things: scripted pipeline and declarative pipeline. The declarative pipeline is parameterized. We can parameterize the scripted also. Similar one, but we need it for declarative. What's the main difference? Anybody guess it? What's your feeling the moment you saw the code? No feelings, no? What was your feeling immediately when you compiled it? First feeling? Side. What was your feeling? This one. What was your feeling immediately you saw the code? Most of them?
Most of them same as the presentation. I mean, the script is
correct. The readability. Declarative syntax is much more readable, means you can easily understand declarative. So when you have complex pipelines, it's easy to read it and modify it. That's outward, first difference. The inward difference is you don't have to obviously know Groovy. We can start reading the documentation, and in a couple of days you will be able to start writing the code because we are using the parameters. These are functions written on the plugin page. So we go to the plugin page, pipeline plugin, next is pipeline plugin, alright, our Jenkins pipeline plugins. We'll read those things and we will know all these things. What does it mean by git parameter? What does it mean by tools? How do we call those things? That's pretty easy. So anybody can start writing the pipelines without learning Groovy script, especially for developers. Let's say you are a developer. Obviously, you know how to read any documentation and use the functions from the documentation because you're always using REST APIs, all these things. Alright? Now this will become just another API. So you go to the API documentation page, you see those functions and you start using it. That's it. You're not being asked to learn Groovy again. So it's much easier for developers actually. And also it gives the readability. Now what's in it for us? What are we doing here? You will get this question always, scripted versus declarative in interviews. That's more like a theory. You don't really have to create these scripts ever. You don't really create it. You are not a developer. So what's the answer to that question? Do you know pipeline? That's what the next first question. Alright. What is a job? First question. Alright. A job is a sequence of steps to bring your code and deploy your code. You may have 3 or 4 steps. Now, a job can be a freestyle job or a pipeline job. A freestyle job is something that you configure everything on Jenkins interface itself. But the problem with the freestyle job is it is completely the DevOps engineer dependent. Now we want to automate that part, so what we did is we moved to pipeline as code. So you have pipeline jobs. So the pipeline, again, the same sequence of steps, nothing is changing, alright? But instead of manually configuring on the interface, you are writing it in a Groovy script. And you will get that nice visibility of the pipeline. You see this thing? People are fascinated by this pipeline. These pipelines. You will see these pipelines all over the internet. They are useless kind of thing. Beyond that looking, it's not useful anymore. Because the moment you build something, you directly go to the log. You're not going to look here and do nothing. I think for DevOps engineers, you can have a look at here. Alright, try to understand what is going on. Beyond that, it's not really of much value here. Alright. So what we have here is a Groovy script, which is a pipeline. That's what you are literally seeing, a pipeline visually. Alright. Now the pipeline only in Groovy script. There is no other scripting language for pipelines. But the Groovy script, you can write the whole Groovy script, which you call scripted, or you can use the functions already defined by a plugin creator. There are a couple of plugins, pipeline jobs, jobs as pipelines. We have installed some of them. Alright. Now all of them basically give you the backend functions to create your steps in a job. Now the declarative pipeline is much easier because you don't have to learn Groovy to start using the functions. The additional advantage is more readable compacted. That's it. So scripted versus declarative. The main difference, how would you say? Scripted, you tell the steps, what to do next, what to do next. A declarative is you always tell what you want, and the software will figure it out. Right? Now both these pipelines can be parameterized. Parameterized basically means you are sending in parameters. At the time of running the job or building the job, you will give the parameter values. Let's recollect Jenkins. What do we have in Jenkins as an admin? A DevOps engineer, right? So what are the tasks you do in Jenkins? You will configure Jenkins. Alright, so your installation and configuration is the first thing. Let's list out what we have in Jenkins. Stick it to your mind. Alright, install and configure. Next, what you do? Usually install plugins. Alright. Then what Jenkins does? It does jobs. That's all it does. You can have a freestyle job depending on what the developer wants, or you can have a pipeline job, scripted, declarative. That's it. That's pretty much it. Sometimes you may have to configure users that you will have to learn at some other point of time. Like this Jenkins instance is integrated with Active Directory. So that's it. It's a task. So depending on what you want to do, usually the general process is to Google for it And then usually there is a document because Jenkins is pretty available everywhere kind of thing. So depending on some other activities, ad hoc type, depending on the project and developers, you may get how to create users and other stuff. In this case, we will integrate with Active Directory. You may have to integrate with something else, but this is very rare. Probably you won't even get that. For you, both for practical purposes, means for working, and both for interviews, this area is more than more than enough. When I say it's not that you just know it, you should be able to talk about it. Interviews are about talking. Alright, so make sure you pay attention to talking about this stuff. Alright, any questions in Jenkins? Pretty much done in Jenkins. Nexus, there is nothing in Nexus. You get your repositories in Nexus. That's all happens in Nexus. Nothing, literally nothing is there in Nexus. There is nothing you have to do in Nexus. Once you set up, it's done. It's only installation you're going to do. So I think you have all your builds coming up here. Any questions in Jenkins?
If we find any error,
Where?
can you try building we
I left it out, right? I'll talk to the developer. I'll say my build failing, please look into it. My job done. But accidentally here I'm also the developer, so I will go back and check it. Build failures are usually not our headaches because we did not create that build, we did not write the code. We just have to tell it. But Jenkins, the whole point of having this thing is Jenkins itself will send an alert. Now this Jenkins is also actually linked up to Slack. That's why it's Slack alert. We configure Slack, right? This Jenkins instance is also configured to Slack. And also with Slack. There's another Slack instance for it. This is another Slack instance. All the Jenkins jobs that we have been running, they send alerts here. See? These are the jobs. You can go ahead and run a job and you will see an alert here. This instance has all the alerts. So what we normally do is we create a separate channel. Alright, all the developers will be invited to that channel. So any alert that comes into Slack, they will directly get it. Earlier it used to be emails, now Slack is more popular. So you can run a job here, you will see an alert. Go ahead and run a job. You should see an alert. In Nexus freestyle you are getting alerts. Scripted also you are getting an alert. You will see the build number here. And it's somebody running. Start build username, all username, yes, and 127, somebody is build now. You got an alert. Yeah, 128 also build, another build. So how do the developers know the status of their builds? They just get Slack alerts like this. The whole purpose of DevOps is not to have too much human interference. So even though we are there at the background, the process is set up in such a way that they don't have to contact us. They're almost invisible. So you will see a lot of 50, 100 developer teams being run by only 2 DevOps engineers. If you are really good DevOps engineer, you automate pretty much everything. You tell them, don't even call me. Don't disturb me. I don't know where I am kind of. Everything is there. They can see everything. They don't need you literally to be present. Because this channel, you also are watching this channel. When something goes wrong, you know that it went wrong. So you are actually checking it even before the API contacts you. This is a different Slack, not the one that we are using. Right? So you should have access to this one. Alright? So Jenkins as a whole, there is nothing much beyond 4 or 5 tasks. So your whole focus should be on the production, the Kubernetes. That's where the big chunk is like this now. What normally happens is you tend to focus on all these small tools, you miss the big picture. Let's say what we did. Started with Git, then Jenkins, then Nexus, said Ansible, then Kubernetes, AWS, right? Now normally what happens is when you start to learn like this in a list, you focus too much here, then a little bit here, little less here, lot less here, almost nothing here. But actually, look at the production. You have SIT, you have QA, you have UAT, and you have a really important part. All these areas, you have Kubernetes and AWS only, isn't it? And how many Jenkins you have? Probably 1 Jenkins you have. Your Git is pretty much not visible anywhere. Alright, Nexus nobody cares. It's just there to hold yours. It's like storeroom, nobody cares about it. Alright, then Ansible, it's getting out almost. Ansible is going to go out in a year. So where you should focus? This is your focus area. So you have to literally start learning in the opposite direction. This is how you should learn. This is your bulk of learning here. About 50% goes here, about 30% goes here. Then Ansible, how much is left out? 5, 1, 3, 1. That's how percentage goes. Coming for 100. Basically, 8, 10. 10 is missing. This is 1. So 80, 90. So we will add 5 here, 10, another 5 here. This is a good one. 15. That's it. You don't have to learn too much of anything at all. You should focus something on Bash scripting or Python scripting. This is how your learning effort should be distributed. What you are currently doing is this one, done. 0, 0, 0, 0. That's what we do. Alright, focus more on these things. These things are once in a while, one-time activities. That's it, done. Job configured now. There's nothing much to do. Alright? Any questions? So we'll continue with Ansible workshop. The URL for your environment will be given, and also the document will be given. I only put up a couple of basic activities in your Ansible workshop to the beginning.